له نحمده ونستعين به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ به من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهد الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له من بعده وأصلي وأسلم على خير وصيته وخاتم رسله العبد المؤيد والرسول المسدد المصطفى الأمجد المحمود الأحمد حبيب إله العالمين أبا القاسم محمد وعلى ابن عمه أمير المؤمنين ومولى الموحدين أسد الله الغالب علي بن أبي طالب صلوات الله وسلامه عليه والأئمة المعصومين من ذريته سيما بقية الله في الأرضين أرواحنا لتراب مقدمه الفداء وعجل الله تعالى فرجه وسهل مخرجه وجعلنا وإياكم من أنصاره وأعوانه والذابين والمستشهدين بين يديه بإذن الله تعالى. أما بعد، قال الله في محكم كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم: فمن حاجك فيه من بعد ما جاءك من العلم فقل تعالوا ندعو أبناءنا وأبناءكم ونساءنا ونساءكم وأنفسنا وأنفسكم ثم نبتهل فنجعل لعنة الله على الكاذبين. آمنا بالله. صدق الله العلي العظيم. Please illuminate your hearts and bless this gathering with a very loud salawat ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. My dear respected brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. The event of Mubahala is amongst the greatest events that took place within the history of the entire religion of Islam. It is an event that gathers Ahlul Kisa once more. No, indeed, whenever we see these five in an area, just know the barakat of Allah is about to shine and the universe will smile once again. Indeed, when Allah describes that He did not create this universe in vain for any purpose except for the like of Amir al-Mu'mineen, Rasulullah, As-Sayyida Zahra. Indeed, if Allah creates the world for the purpose of these five, then it's very important that we look, where did they gather once more? Is it the only time within the religion of the history of Islam that in the event of the Kisa, rather, they've gathered multiple times. And one of the most beautiful gatherings of them coming together is exactly what occurred on the 9th of the Bi'tha of Rasulullah, the 9th after the migration of Rasulullah, on the 24th of Dhul Hijjah, did we notice that an event that turned the attention right back to these five occurred. Sadly, many Muslims will not be able to tell you beyond exactly the fact that an event occurred between the five members of Ahlul Kisa and some Christians from a region called Najran. Sadly, it is the case that when we discuss the Mubahala, many of us may not be able to quite define what the term Mubahala means, or what does Allah mean when He says, ثُمَّ نَبْتَهِلْ فَنَجْعَلْ لَعْنَةَ اللَّهِ عَلَى الْكَاذِبِينَ. What is the difference between a Mubahala and a Munadhirah, an interview and a debate invoking the condemnations and la'na of Allah Azza wa Jal? Did a debate happen? Many of us are always excited to watch debates occur. طيب, did a debate happen between the Holy Messenger these holy five and the Christians of Bani Najran? If so, what happened? If not, why didn't it happen? What did the Christians say when they saw these five for the first time? What was their impression? Why did Rasulullah reject their invitation the first time they came around? What was his main reason? Why did he tell them, go back and don't come right now? What was his main point in rejecting an invitation of coexistence, of interfaith dialogue? How come when the Messenger of God brings his family, when God says in the Holy Quran, bring your women and bring your sons, he brings his grandsons and not his direct sons? What could that mean about the status of Imams Hassan and Hussein? When God says in the plural, bring multiple, not the one woman, rather bring multiple, nisa'ana, bring many women, he just brings one woman. Can it be argued that the Messenger of God was told to bring himself physically and not any man different when he says anfusana? Could that be in reference to just simply himself? Why does he insist on bringing Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam? These are questions that are vital for us to be able to reply and give answers to. We understand that it happened to be the year that is known as Am al-Wufud, the year of the delegations. And the interesting thing is, even before the bi'tha of Rasulullah, even before his migration, you found that each year would be named by the significant event that occurred. The year in which the Messenger of God, the stampeding of the elephants of Abraha, were coming towards the Kaaba, stopped by the Tayr al-Ababil, that year was called Am al-Fil. It's only when the Prophet migrated did they start giving numbers to the events. But even afterwards, they still connected the year with the event. So for example, the year in which Abu Talib alayhi salam, as Sayyidah Khadija alayhi salam died, that same year, Rasulullah said, it may be the last year or the 13th year of Dhul Bi'tha. It may be that, but this year is called Am al-Huzn, the year of grief. And indeed, the 9th year of the Mubahala was called Am al-Wufud. The 8th year of Hijrah was called what? Am Fatah Makkah, the day in which Mecca was conquered. So they kept this pattern of naming each year with a significant date that occurred, in addition to remembering the number as well. In this context, the event of Mubahala occurred in the year known as Am al-Wufud. Al-Wufud means the year of the delegations. It was a year, by that time, the 9th year after Hijrah. When did Eid Al Ghadeer occur? What year was it? It was the 10th year. So one exact Eid Al Ghadeer occurred in the middle of Dhul Hijjah, exactly 1 year later. So exactly 1 year after the event of Mubahala, Allah Azza wa Jal makes it affirm, reminding them of the wilayah of Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen. 1 year before, there was a moment the whole five of them were recognized once again. Am al-Wufud simply means the year of the delegations. The Messenger of God, by the 9th year after Hijrah, he managed to totally have full conquer and control of the Arabian Peninsula. And at that point, there were many tribes that didn't understand who this prophet was. Was he someone that was going to dictate and rule over us oppressively? Every ruler that came, as in the ayah of Surah An-Naml, when the queen of Sheba sends her letter to Sulaiman, she says to her servants that this king, the king, a way of the kings is whatever town they enter, they destroy it. Let us send him gifts, so sway him to not become aggressive against us. Little do these people know that Rasulullah is sent as a rahmah lil alameen, that they should not be afraid of him. So what they did was, let's send delegations to the Prophet of Islam. Many delegations came. They all came and they wanted to inquire, who and what are you about? Are you genuinely a prophet as you claim? Are you going to kill us? What do you want from us? Are you going to overpower us? Are we expected to be killed? Should we leave? Do you want money to make you happy? The Messenger of God will tell them, no, contrary. I invite you to 2 words. He would say, these are 2 words that are light on the tongue, heavy on the mizan. كلمتان خفيفتان على اللسان ثقيلتان في الميزان أن لا إله إلا الله وأنني أنا رسول الله. Just say those 2 things. It's easy. However, if you decide not to embrace, I will not coerce you. La ikraha fi din. That there was no room for us to compel you. You must come with your own conviction. So as a result, if you decide not to embrace, it's not the sword. It's that if you can be a citizen under our nation, you must pay the jizya. And that, if it's not even met, then there's a penalty as well. But that's it. That's all I'm about. And so a delegation came from Najran. Najran was and is historically a predominantly Christian, monotheistic city on the border of modern-day Saudi and Yemen. And these were Christians that came to go meet the Prophet on that same year. What's he about? He's calling not just for a new way of life, a new religion. Like, we're Christians. What's he going to do with us? What's our fate? And so they want to go meet with him. They want to negotiate with him. Christians of Bani Najran, they want to see what he's about. And so a delegation arrives. They enter Medina al-Munawwara and they want to meet the Prophet. The following is a discussion about interfaith dialogue and coexistence. The Messenger of God sees them walking towards the masjid. And the Messenger of God is being asked, are they allowed to enter the masjid? This is where you get certain ahkam fiqhiyya emerging. The Prophet of God allowed them to enter the masjid. And one hadith tells us that when they came inside the masjid, they placed incense inside their smoke carriers and they began to swing it like as such. They do these in churches sometimes where they want to like bless the area. Some of the companions said this is a violation of the sanctity. The Prophet said it's nothing. What are they doing? They're walking around and they think they're doing something. In reality, they're not doing anything. This is an outlook Ahlul Bayt commonly carried. Whereas when you saw someone like Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen, when they walk by the church and it's in ruins and they look at the church and the companions tell him, Ya Ali, we wonder, Kam ushrik Allahu biha. How much did Allah become violated in that church? To which the Imam says, Bal kam ubidallah biha. Rather, how much did Allah get worshipped inside it? They look at the cup half empty. No, they look at it half full. At the end of the day, yes, it may not be in the version that inshallah ta'ala we believe is correct in the terms of Allah, but at the end of the day, take them for what they claim to be. They claim to be monotheistic, ala al-ayn wal-ras, sure, monotheistic. Bin natija, we disagree with the fundamentals, but my Quran recognized you as Ahlul Kitab, the people of the book. And monotheistic, with major adjustments needed, no issue with that. The Prophet said, I will not speak with you today. They said, why? Not interested. They go to Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, and they say to him, what's the deal? How come he won't talk with us? Imam Ali said, one thing. You are dressed in ways that is not appropriate for the Messenger of God to sit with. I said, what do you mean? He says, you're wearing two things that are haram in our religion to wear as men. Number one, you cannot wear gold and you're coming in decked out as gold. And a man who claims to be a man of God should not entertain the world of luxury and lavishness. You're a person of Allah. Be a zahid, be humble, be modest. You're wearing gold and you claim to be representing God. That's not right. The cross is bigger than your own body. It's made of gold. No, there's no need for that. Number two, you're wearing silk. And the silk is considered luxurious. Too luxurious that it becomes haram for men to wear. The Prophet of God has no issue with you. He has an issue with what you're wearing. And he can't sit with you if you're doing this. Do you know what this shows us? It shows us something about having taste, class. As we say, siradak dhawq, a little bit of taste. In what sense? That, sure, sometimes the circumstance might not be an outright haram one. There's nothing stopping the Prophet from sitting with someone who is doing something haram in your book but not theirs. But guess what? It's out of taste. It's not befitting. Anta, as a Muslim, you may not be doing anything wrong, but it's out of taste to sit with that one person who is constantly doing something wrong, who is constantly violating, who appears to be very, if you were dressed in their way, inappropriate. Don't sit by that individual if you have another option or an alternative. And we're not saying, oh, we're only going to mix with and mingle with Muslims. La, this world is pluralistic. It has multiple. You can tolerate, but if you have alternatives as far as the kind of people you hang with, You may not be doing something wrong, but have some taste. The kind of backward, objectifying inappropriateness that is out there doesn't mean you can just sit and tolerate it. Well, I'm not bothering. Sometimes you are the sum of the people you hang around with, and that can influence you and bleed off. You say, it's not me, it's not you one day, inshallah. It's going to be your son, it's going to be your little brother. You expect that they're going to be perfectly protected from the influences of outside sources. Wake up and smell the coffee. That's not the real world today. The Prophet says, these are moments that are not befitting for me to join you. Luxuriously, gold, lavish. Imam Ali says, come back tomorrow, change your clothes. You claim to be a man of God, dress the part, ignore all the lavish, wear simple clothing. You claim to represent Jesus, come looking like Jesus. Historically speaking, Jesus Christ wore 2 pairs of clothing, similar to the ihram that we wear in Hajj. Jesus Christ had the beard. Where are those who now claim to be followers of the message of Christ? Where is your mimicry of Jesus? I thought you must be like him as the perfect human. Is he not God incarnate? Then be like that man. Be consistent before the look. Be with his akhlaq. Love the neighbor, love this, love that. Manifest it. So the messenger of God will not meet you in this state. Come tomorrow. They come back the next day. And Imam says, don't come in the masjid. Come meet him outside. Said, why? Because the messenger of God has a plan. And this plan is going to involve the ridges of Allah. You've heard the ayah of the Holy Quran, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. إِنَّمَا يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ لِيُذْهِبَ عَنْكُمْ الرِّجْسَةِ. Rijis is different than rijiz with a zain. The rijzun min as-sama is calamity from the heavens. Bismillah, قالوا يا موسى ادعو لنا ربك بما أحد عندك. Moses, make dua for us to your Lord over what he promised you. Rijzun min as-sama'i fell upon us. The Nile turned to blood. Locusts were flying, earthquakes were happening, frogs were everywhere. Allah punished the Egyptians. They called it a rijzun with a zain, not a seen. The other one is rijis with the seen, spiritual impurification. The Prophet will invoke the Almighty tomorrow, and he doesn't want calamity to fall upon what? Masjid al-Haram, Masjid al-Nabawi Sharif in Medina. So we're going to go to the desert. So now they find out the messenger of God is talking the big talk. He's ready to speak with you. In fact, the retaliation of what he says could bring about a calamity upon one group or the other based on who wins the following discussion. They said, we just want to have a discussion. The Prophet says, there's no time for his discussions left and right. You want to be serious? Have a conversation with him outside. Be confident. They said, no problem. The messenger of God tomorrow will meet you outside of Medina Munawwara. He tells Salman al-Muhammadi to go and pitch a tent outside Medina. Outside of Medina, the Prophet is going to gather there. Before the event occurs, let's agree on a couple terms. So the big man from Bani Najran comes and meets with Rasulullah before the day. They have no problem. The messenger of God meets him and he says to him, we weren't able to see you yesterday, but today you are more befitting. Let's invite you to the way of Islam. He says, but we are believers in God. The Prophet says, but the belief in God with its terms and its conditions. They said, and what do you believe in regards and with respect to the father of Moses? He says, Moses' father is the son, is Imran, Musa bin Imran. How about the son of the father of Ismail? He says, Ibrahim. How about the father of Sulaiman? He says, Dawood. How about the father of Isa? He says he had a mother only. And they replied, for that reason, he must be God's son. To which the ayah was revealed. How about with respect to Adam? Inna mathala Isa ibn Maryama كمثل آدم خلقه من تراب ثم قال له كن فيكون. In that context, Adam had no father or mother. He has a bigger right to be God. Whereas you consider Jesus to be God because he has no father and only mother. The case with Adam is a bigger case that you should consider. They said that's not all there is. The Messenger of God said, the reason why you cannot claim to be God's followers are for 3 reasons. He lists these 3. They said, why? He says, number 1, you, O Christians, and this still applies today, subhanAllah. You Christians love alcohol, and that's not something men of God do. Nor was that something Jesus did, and nor was that something the Bible or the Torah spoke about. Today, the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and the Torah, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Deuteronomy, Numbers, none of them give permission to drink alcohol. None of them. Where did you come up with the alcohol? You drink it so much, it's in your church, that you called it the blood of Jesus, and the bread wafer is the flesh of Jesus. And in fact, till today, it is illegal for underage drinking in any context except in churches, where you can dip a little bit of that blood of Jesus wine and give it to children. Only exemptions in churches that you drink. The culture of drinking is very much ungodly. That's my big issue with you. Imagine Rasulullah says that to a Christian's face, a Christian monk's face. Not the lay Christian. The lay Christian doesn't know much. The lay Christian is a mutabi', a muqallid. The issue here is with those who know the truth. وَيُحَرِّفُونَ الْكَلِمَةِ. Number 2, you Christians, interesting the hadith says, have consumed the swine. When Jesus made prohibited the swine. When the Torah made, and Moses and the law of Musa made prohibited the swine. You consume the swine. And number 3, you Christians venerate the cross like it is God Himself. These are the comments of the Holy Prophet of Islam. In that case, because of these issues, do you agree these are things not necessarily found in the original teachings? The Christian says, it could be that way. The Prophet says, now I invite you, accept a way that you don't lose Jesus. You accept Jesus. When you become Muslim, you don't sacrifice Jesus, but you accept Jesus as He wanted to be. I invite you to that way. They said, we will not accept. The Prophet then said, now I make the terms. Tomorrow we will meet in the outside of Medina Munawwara. This is the event of Al-Mubahala. And we will have a debate. At the end of that debate, we will confidently say, if one does not give up, if one does not concede, if one does not capitulate, we will invoke the la'na of Allah on the group who are liars. ثُمَّ نَبْتَهِلْ فَنَجْعَلْ لَعْنَةَ اللَّهِ عَلَى الْكَاذِبِينَ. Upon the liars. They said, for a lack of better words, challenge accepted. Tomorrow arrives. And then the Prophet was revealed this ayah. فَمَنْ حَاجَّكَ فِيهِ مِنْ بَعْدِ مَا جَاءَكَ مِنَ الْعِلْمِ فَقُلْ. Now Rasulullah, say this to him. تَعَالُوا نَدْعُوا أَبْنَاءَنَا وَأَبْنَاءَكُمْ. If they have still resisted, even after you've given them knowledge, say to them, let's invite our sons, and you invite your sons. وَنِسَاءَنَا وَنِسَاءَكُمْ. And our women and your women. وَأَنفُسَنَا وَأَنفُسَكُمْ. And ourselves and yourselves. ثُمَّ نَبْتَهِلْ. And then we have our debate. Look at the order. We bring family or people like this, then we have the debate. فَنَجْعَلْ لَعْنَةَ اللَّهِ عَلَى الْكَاذِبِينَ. Then we have a debate. If the debate doesn't have a clear victor, we say, Ya Allah, bring your la'na on the one that's wrong. If you're right, Allah will do la'na right there upon us. رِجْسٌ مِنَ السَّمَاءِ will fall upon us. And if we are right, it'll happen to you. If you're right, it'll happen to us. Agree? Agree. Tomorrow. Rasulullah prays his Fajr. And he gathers, and that night, the hadith mentions, every single woman from Nisa of the Ansar and the Muhajirun and the 9 wives of the Holy Prophet of Islam were ready and waiting to see, am I from the women that he will bring? Notice, from the women, because they're expecting multiple. Nisa, not mar'ah, la, multiple. Nisa, jami', there's multiple women expected to come. No woman came except the Holy Messenger's daughter, Fatima al-Zahra, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayha. He brings Lady Zahra. In that moment, it's like she represented all of womanhood. She stood and represented every woman. She had a place not behind the Prophet, by the side of the Holy Prophet, in the forefront, in the most critical moment in Islamic history, one of the most difficult and challenging moments where Allah's burden will be falling right now. He brings His daughter to stand by His side. Representing all women is one daughter. Then the clear moment of His sons. The Prophet of Islam would look at some of the Sahaba and say, my son, Ya bunay, yabni. He would say, my dear boy, my son, an endearing word. You can see many ulama, they look at many of their students, and many of the students of ilm here will know this, that the teacher is like your father. You must respect your teacher. There's a hikmah that says, آباؤك ثلاث أب ولدك وأب علمك وأب زوجك وخيرهم الأب الذي علمك. Your dads are three. The dad that biologically produced you, that's your ab. The dad that taught you, and the dad that helped get you married. They are all your ab. And the best is those who teaches you. Sure, indeed. So the companions are thinking, yes, the hadith says abna. Number one, the Prophet has no sons. There are no living sons in the day of Mubahala on the 9th of Dhul Hijjah. There are no sons here. So clearly, what's this ishara to? It's in reference to what? His Sahaba. Many of the good Sahaba that he raised when they were boys are going to come with him. And not just one, multiple. Rasulullah brings only Hassan and Hussein. I remember one of the ulama of the non-Shia and the other madrasa said that this was not a reference to Al-Hassan wal Hussein. Why? Because Al-Hassan wal Hussein are not his sons, they're his grandsons. This person never saw love growing up from his father, apparently, because he never was called my son, and so he was projecting his hate. A grandfather to his grandchildren is like his sons, is just like his sons. In fact, we are taught that a grandparent has a greater right over the grandchildren at times, and he can be the wali amr in the absence of the father. They have that occupation, that priority. And in this ayah, it displays to us that Al-Hassan wal-Hussein cannot be seen as the asbat of Rasulullah, the maternal grandsons of the Prophet anymore. They are his sons. Yes, the Prophet didn't have a living son after this moment. But from now on, Al-Hassan wal-Hussein are themselves sons of Rasulullah at that moment. And he brings children, showing you and I how important the role of children is in critical decision making. In the masajid, it's not fair that the children have to be exempt and kicked out. If they genuinely want to enter and learn and benefit, let them sit in the first row. Let them sit amongst us. How else do they learn? If not in the Husayniyah, where are they going to learn? In school? Yes, school is going to teach them the school education material. But where are they going to learn the spiritual education? Their theological education, their vision and worldview. How are they going to formulate that? If not in the Husayniyah, and if they keep getting kicked out of the main event. Let them come. So, but they're not benefiting. Wallah, you know how they'll learn? Through osmosis, through Wi-Fi. Let them sit. The fact that they're gathering, this rubs off. The best memories you have when you were little was you at the Husayniyah messing around. You may not have learned anything, but you're going to be thankful for them later on. Bring your kid. Don't say, well, he's not going to learn. Let him listen. It's not a language that they know about. Okay, let them still come. Let them watch. Ya akhi, where else are they going to go? The synagogue? Where are they going to go? The church? The Hussein is built for them. And we say, no, but Rasulullah says the most critical moment, Hassan Hussein, come. He's 5 and the other one is 6. It's okay, let them come. Let them be attending. I want the world to see that they have a role so important that their role is not behind the scenes. They're children, but they're going to be with me on that day, representing my abna. The next ayah shows you how many fada'il does Ali ibn Abi Talib have? How many? I remember one of the ulama, he listed 1,150 fada'il of Ali ibn Abi Talib that he said he could pen down. He says there's more. The cousin of the Holy Messenger of God that he trusted. The safe of the Holy Messenger of God. The ayn of Allah, metaphorically speaking. The ayah of wilaya. إِنَّمَا وَلِيُّكُمُ اللَّهُ وَرَسُولُهُ وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. There are about 70 ayat direct reference to Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib. 70. مِنَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ رِجَالٌ إِنَّمَا وَلِيُّكُمُ اللَّهُ إِنَّمَا يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ لِيُذْهِبَ عَنْكُمْ الرِّجْسَ. Ayah after ayah after ayah, we reveal on Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib 70 directly. Every single Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu is also in reference to Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib. Indirectly and directly. But his best fadila, There is no ayah, there is no virtue like the one on the day of Mubahala. And it's no coincidence that it's a year later, he then gives the announcement of Ghadir Khum, because they said, oh yeah, because he called them last year his nafs. The ayah came down. And it's not Rasulullah speaking, it's God saying, وَأَنفُسَنَا وَأَنفُسَكُمْ. And bring yourselves. Who will you bring as yourself, Ya Rasulullah? The one that you bring to represent you must be like you, must be pure, must never have bowed down to an idol. This person, if you're pure, he's pure. If you never buried babies alive, then he must have never buried babies alive, unlike other riffraffs here and there. If you are one who never ran away, who never cowardice, who never showed a sense of fear when you said go, he said yes, has to be that individual. And he found none other worthy to call as my nafs than Ali ibn Abi Talib, salawatullahi wa salamu alayh. In that context, and in that moment, and in that critical time in Islamic history, the Christians of Bani Najran, one hadith in At-Tabari's Tarikh mentions, come out in hundreds. This man brings this guy as his nafs. That one brings his niece. This one brings that educated lady. This one brings multiple of his sons to attend. Hundreds of people from Bani Najran come on that side of the field, and they said this: if Muhammad comes out and he brings his companions to represent the nafs, the daughters, and the sons, then you debate him, because he's willing to put his friends on the line of receiving potentially the la'na of Allah. But if he brings his family, turn around and go back to Yemen. Because a man who's willing to sacrifice his family for the haqq is a man that truly believes in his message. He's not afraid to bring his own family in a day that we signed by blood, that if one of us is wrong and capitulates and does not concede, then the la'na of God, let it not just fall on me, let it fall on my children as well. A man that does this must be confident. And tabihu, if he brings his friends, debate him. He's not sincere. We're willing to throw our boys under the bus every day. We do it every day for fun. People do it every day, wallahi al-azim. Unfortunately, in Hajj, 3 years ago. Why do I say 3 years ago? It's been 2019. Okay, 7 years ago. It feels like it was yesterday. That's how traumatizing it was. You know the year where they had the stampede that unfortunately happened in Hajj because of the logistic problems, and then the roads were very narrow, and a lot of unfortunate people died. Unfortunately, and sadly, majority of them were Shia lovers of Ahlul Bayt, coincidentally. In this context, we lost our group leader, and we said, where did he go? And the stampede kicked in, and we were being pushed and struggling, and we were shoved around. We barely made it out, I recall. We were shoved up, and our ihram was ripped. It was that bad. We get to the hotel, and we see him. You're here. We thought you got taken away by the wave of humans. He says, no, I saw it coming hours before, and I decided to leave. Like, the least you could have done is tell us. I remember the ayah of the Quran, the naml of Sulaiman. Do you remember what it says? Ya ayyatuha namlu, get inside your ant mounds. Sulaiman and his soldiers might crush you. The naml, the ant, has more ghira for its people than some Bani Adam does for other Bani Adam. You could have just warned us. Our friends, we throw each other under the bus, adi. They say, if he brings his boys, his friends, his companions, his sahaba, debate him. People are easily willing to throw their boys under the bus. It happened to the best of us. But if he brings his own women and his actual family, that man is sincere. Anyone who's willing to sacrifice their children for the cause of Allah as a man rooted in the cause of Allah. The Messenger of God on that faithful morning emerges from the tent, and the hadith is so lovely. I please, I encourage you all, go back and read it yourself. In the wording they say when they describe what they saw, they said that we saw a group of people, 5 of them emerge. Wallah, they had a noor that if they told the mountain to move, it would have moved out of shame. The radiance from these people was so overwhelming, to which we were shocked that he brought his daughter in the event of Mubahala to represent all women. Fatima Zahra is Sayyidatu Nisa al-Alameen min al-awwalina wal-akhirin. His sons, those are his grandchildren, not anymore. Hassan and Hussein are the very sons of Rasulullah from that day on. And for himself, he brings a man unlike any man there ever was. A man that he's willing to say, you see how he was willing to sleep on my bed and give his life for me? I give my life for him because his life, my life is one, that is my nafs, Ali ibn Abi Talib. He emerges and the messenger emerges, and then the Christians say, we're going home, we're not debating you guys today. The radiance you have is so overwhelming that wallah, if you told that mountain to move, how would it not move? And I replied to them, indeed, اسمعوا انتبهوا للحظة انتبهوا. How would it not move if that mountain was created for them? If that sky was created and it was lifted for them, how would that mountain not ship shape and move and shift from its position? If the very grains call out, La ilaha illallah, Muhammadun Rasulullah, Aliyun waliyullah, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhim ajma'een. And that moment sealed the deal. No one can put a question mark on any of these five ever again. You thought that when Ayat al-Kisa, the hadith of al-Kisa, was brought down, it may have been a grandfather's lovey-dovey comments for his family. Not anymore. They became the very embodiment of Islam. She became the very manifestation of all upright women, the sons of the Prophet and the self of the Prophet. In fact, there was 4 people that emerged. Hassan, Hussein, Sayyidah Zahra, and Ali and Rasulullah are one. Ahmad ibn Hanbal was asked this question. The Imam of the Hanabila, student of Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam. They ask him, the greatest of Allah's khalq, name them in order. He says, it has to be in the order of the successors of the Prophet. The first Khalifa is the greatest after a Prophet. And then who? It has to be the second directly. The third, Ibn Affan, is of course. Where do you place Ali ibn Abi Talib? He says, you asked me the greatest of the Sahaba of Rasulullah. You didn't ask me about the self of Rasulullah. I put him on a different league. He's not considered Sahabi after the day of Mubahala, ya Habibi. He's considered the very nafs of Rasulullah. He's in a different pedestal. Don't ask me about him and compare him to Zayd and Amr. Ask me about him in his own category, in his own right. I love that. وَالْفَضْلُ مَا شَهِدَ بِهِ الْأَعْدَاءُ, as they say. And they sealed the deal. They said to the messenger, we'll sign a peace treaty, and that's it. Sometimes you can win debates by your confidence that you emerge in. Sometimes you can solve disputes by your conviction in your aqeedah. And that's why I don't want to take further time. The best form of defense and resistance you can give in the world today, just be proud Shia. That's it. Don't let anyone question your identity. Don't let anyone say you think you are a Muslim, you are kuffar, you are this, la la la. Say my rightly guided are different than your 5 rightly guided. My rightly guided are Rasulullah, Hassan, Hussein, Fatima Zahra, and Amir al-Mu'mineen. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide us on their path in this dunya. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to raise us with them in the akhirah. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us their shafa'ah and their intercession in the akhirah. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us more upright, more confident, more proud to hold the message of those who emerged on a day that Allah Azza wa Jal found no one more suitable to represent our worldview and manhaj other than the 5 Ahl al-Kisa and then the 5 members of the Mubahala. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم والحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى اللهم على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين.
صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Thank you very much, Sayyid. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين. اللهم صل على Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. I feel fortunate to have gone after Sayyid. What an eloquent speech, and what a I think we all can say, we all feel the same thing when we say that, we feel like, the Mawali, inshallah. We feel like Shia today because of, the confidence that that Sayyid gave us, alhamdulillah. Salu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. I think the passion with which Sayyid talks about Imam Ali alayhi salam, there's very few who can demonstrate that passion unless you know who Imam Ali alayhi salam was. I think this is one of the most important elements of our faith, our aqeedah. Inshallah, today we are launching a book. This is the second volume of the Sharh of Nahjul Balagha, the explanation or the commentary of Nahjul Balagha. The first volume covered the first, it was launched last year, almost exactly 1 year ago, last year. And this year, inshallah, we're launching the second volume, which is covering sermon number 2 to sermon number 15. Inshallah, before we get started, that was just a brief introduction to the book. If I can get your attention on the screen, Eid Al Makarim. So this has been written with the pen and under the guidance of Eid Al Makarim Shirazi, who is currently one of our great maraja, who has also written other books, specifically, Tafsir Namuna, for instance, and others as well, and multiple others, to be honest, and which we are working, inshallah, with the office to translate as well. So if I can get your attention on the screen, there's a short video that Sayyid, that Sheikh has recorded, that if we can play here. There we go. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Honestly, I have to tell you that what he's mentioned is exactly what, like it's exactly what he said. Once you delve into the words of Imam Ali alayhi salam, it's like an ocean. Subhanallah, the book has been called the beacon of guidance on the heights of eloquence. And the reason why it's called a beacon of guidance, and I think the title is so apt, is because it is actually literally guiding the reader through the words of Imam Ali alayhi salam. So it starts out, obviously you can see the sanad and the sabab, like why this sermon was given, when it was given, for what reasons it was given. And then it goes to an immaculate translation of the word by word, very simple, easy to understand translation. And then it also has a commentary of each part. So each phrase of Imam Ali's words, there's a commentary on each part. And then followed by, obviously, for those of you who are interested in the balagha, in the depth of the Arabic literature, and obviously are not Arabs themselves, like myself, it actually also has the reasons why Imam Ali alayhi salam chose particular words, or why that word was used, and what that word actually means from the lexicological perspective. And then finally, it has this section on the important points from that particular part, guiding the reader through titles. And I can tell you that, for those of you who have picked up Nahj al-Balagha sermon number 1, even in English I couldn't understand it until I picked up this. And the first volume of this actually is literally just sermon number 1, which is on Tawheed. Incredible. And Ayatollah Makarim's style of writing is very simple, it's easy to understand. It really is a companion for those of you who understand. Now, inshallah, the next slide. Just to briefly tell you, I'm representing Lantern Publications. We've published a number of books from a number of sources, obviously. Inshallah, the most prominent was the one that we published a few years ago, which was Amali of Sheikh Saduq, which is translated. But on top of that, there's a whole bunch of other books as well. Inshallah, they will be available outside. And we also have children's books available as well. I think they're not moving the slides, but if you can kindly move the slides. Thank you. Inshallah, there's other books that are available as well. They're outside. Finally, I think what I do want to mention is that you have the opportunity to become part of the making of these books as well. This is one of the best sadaqah jariyah you can give, because a book is something that will guide for centuries to come, inshallah. And a book like this is, so for those of you who are interested, you can actually scan the QR code. I think they're still a bit slow as well on the other side. We are on the next slide. Yes, there you go. So if you'd like to learn more about our publications and what we do, and would like to participate in this barakah, you're welcome to become part of the making. And obviously, we also have some basic information as well about our website, our work. Everything's on our website. You can actually sign up to the newsletter with the QR code that's there, and you'll get a monthly update as to what new publications are being released and coming up, inshallah. We're also going to be releasing a brilliant book in the holy month of Muharram. Inshallah, we'll keep your eyes peeled for that as well. It is a real thriller, actually, and real novel thriller, which is really good from an Islamic Shia perspective. So a unique contribution as well. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Thank you very much for your attention, and I would like to also obviously thank the organizers for giving me the opportunity to talk to all of you tonight and introduce this incredible work. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
أحسنتم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا. وصل يا رب على محمد وآله الطاهرين.